A very good evening to all of you. Welcome to my channel News Simplified. In this video, I am going to talk to you about Andaman and Nicobar Islands. This part of India, which is an island, is a pristine land. It's pure in terms of its natural conditions. It is full of natural bounties. It is also called the carbon sink of the world. One of the carbon reservoirs. What is carbon reservoir? Carbon reservoir means an area which is a part of the carbon cycle. As you all know, human activities produce a lot of carbon dioxide by its developmental activities, and this carbon is absorbed. Either it is by the atmosphere or by the forests or by the oceans. It is absorbed at one place or the other, being a part of the atmosphere, because it is emitted into the atmosphere, and that is why it is absorbed by the biosphere, by the oceans and all. So it is very important for us to keep it in its natural condition, to maintain its sanctity, its diverse biodiversity. Its biodiversity is a chief concern when something like a mega project begins to take shape at a pristine place like Andaman and Nicobar Islands. There is a mega project taking shape in Andaman and Nicobar Island on the part of the Indian government, and it's the construction of power plant, township, transshipment port and airport, which will also affect 13,000 hectares of pristine forests. A vast area of forest will be affected by this project. It will also affect the coral reef along the coast. The sanctity of the place, the natural beauty, or the conditioning of the place will be adversely affected, and it's one of the chief concerns of the environmentalists. Let us try to explore in what way such projects have been dealt with till date, how nature has got its voice, how people have reacted, chiefly the environmentalists and ecologists have reacted, and what are the court judgments regarding the rights of nature. Essential judicial precedence is available. There was a landmark judgment relating to the issue of diversion of forests that could come to the rescue of the Great Nicobar Island in the Niamgiri Hills case, pursuant to the Scheduled Tribes and Other Traditional Forest Dwellers Recognition of Forest Rights Act 2006. there is a landmark judgment which was made in 2013. It was in the Odisha Mining Corporation Limited and Ministry of Environment and Forest and others. The name of the judgment is. It was regarding the Niamgiri Hills and the rights of the people living around the Niamgiri Hills. The tribal areas were going to be adversely affected. Their rights were going to be compromised because of the hydroelectricity project that was planned. It was called a planned disaster for the area, and Niamgiri Hills are situated in Odisha. What happened here? Here, a project of hydroelectricity was being built, and the tribal people were protesting against interference with their right to forest, with the right to river, with the right to live in itself. Their culture, religion, environment, and were going to be affected, and that's why when the court delivered its judgment in 2013, it gave the tribal people a right to decide the fate of the project and decide whether it is beneficial for them to have it on their land, around their land where they live, or not. That is why a referendum was conducted, so that the people's wish could be known, whether they are in favor or against this project. And in this way, the court very judiciously transferred the judicial power to the people who are going to be affected by this project, and this landmark judgment started a new chapter in the history of environment protection and ecology protection in India. What happened? There was a tribal council in place which was keeping an eye on the kind of developmental projects taken up by the government and taken up by the contractors. They were monitoring the situations around the tribal in habitats, but a false representation was made by the officials to the central government, and they told the central government that there has been no impingement on the rights of the tribal people, and things are settled, the grievances have been addressed, and that is why the government gave its assent to the project, and it was on its way to its fulfillment. There was a large chunk of forest area to be diverted for the use of the project. Let us begin to know about whether nature has its rights, whether nature can claim its rights of protection. If you look at various developmental projects which have met stiff resistance on the part of the people, the history of it is rife. Look at Tehri in the north, Tehri in Uttarakhand. Here was a dam to be built a power generating hydroelectricity power project. For that sake, a dam was being constructed and it met with stiff resistance from the local people. As you all know, it started in 1978. Sundarlal Bahuguna was its spearhead. He was spearheading the movement for the protection of the rights of the people and safeguard the nature. Then, as you all know, there is Koel Karo project. It was also a hydroelectricity project, and it started after the independence of India. It started around 1950, and what is Koel Karo? Koel Karo is situated in Odisha. Not Odisha, sorry, it is not Odisha. It was in Bihar, the undivided Bihar, comprising Jharkhand as well. There are two rivers, Koel and Karo, and on these two rivers, a hydroelectricity project was to be built, and it also met with stiff resistance from the local people. Then you go to the west and you have the Sardar Sarovar Dam. Sardar Sarovar Dam on the Narmada River also met with the stiff resistance from the local people. Meda Patkar, as you all know, was its spearhead. She was leading the movement against the project, and they had to pass through long struggle before coming to their fruition and fulfillment. And when we look at all these things which are having negative effect on nature, environment and ecology, affecting the biodiversity of the places, you have instances in the world as well. Different countries have shown path regarding that. There is Bolivia, Colombia, Ecuador and New Zealand who have showed us by adopting a new legal approach called the jurisprudence. It means the earth has its right to justice. It is the right of the nature to live. Just as people have right to live, they have constitutional rights to live. Nature itself has a right to live, and its entities require respect on the part of the people who live around and in the geographical area they fall. These countries have shown that they have recognized natural entities as subjects of right holders. They are the right holders, just as people are right holders. The rivers and trees are also right holders. Where from did this idea start? Who was the person who proposed that nature has its rights? Trees have their rights to live. It was an American environmentalist. He was by profession a lawyer as well. His name was Christopher Stone. He wrote an article in 1972. Its name was So Trees Have Standing Toward Legal Rights for Natural Objects. In that article, he argued that the current approach did not consider damages to the environment but also environment related damages to humans in granting relief. When the courts take into consideration the affected parties by some projects, they are not delving into the right of nature to be protected, to live, the right of nature. They are actually taking into consideration the right of the people who are going to be affected. So, when the right of the nature is recognized, it is a paradigm shift. It is a thinking shifting from its traditional ways. It's diverting from its traditional paths. The natural entities are right holders, and they also have been recognized by the judgments of courts in different countries, and they also want to improve. The people who want to improve environment are also the friends of these natural entities. But question arises whether natural entities like human adults can be held responsible and exercise legal competences by entering into contracts, or whether they can sue and be sued by as an aggrieved party. Stone suggested, Christopher Stone, the American environmentalist, he suggested that there should be the creation of a guardianship body which could initiate legal action and also collect funds to preserve and restore its condition. He told that in the article, he told that trees, rivers, and natural entities cannot speak for themselves. So there should be created a legal body. A guardian of the natural entities should be in place who can look after their well-being. Uh, this creation of a guardianship was proposed by Christopher Stone in his article. Nature right and nature personhood also began to take shape in different judgments in the Indian courts as well. There is one instance of a Uttarakhand High Court judgment which granted legal personhood to the Ganges and Yamuna rivers. Ganges and Yamuna rivers were granted personhood in Muhammad Salim versus State of Uttarakhand and others judgment conferred these entities with rights and obligations, but only through a designated person. It was not that themselves will represent in the courts. In these natural entities, Ganges and Yamuna River, cannot represent themselves in the court. They cannot present their cases in the court. That is why uh, a kind of a designated person was appointed for protecting their rights. But later on, this case was contested and went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court is, stayed various provisions in the judgment, in which the most prominent one was conferring guardianship. It means Supreme Court did not like the idea of conferring guardianship to any other party. To make someone guardian of the natural entities was not liked by the Supreme Court. It is struck off the provision. Now let us know how can environment and ecology be protected if they cannot be their own right holders, if they cannot speak for themselves like people, if other bodies cannot be created as guardians for voicing their concerns, because creation of guardianship can lead to compromise on these natural entities right to live sometimes. If governments cannot protect, how can the guardians protect? I think this was the main concern when this provision in the Uttarakhand High Court judgment was struck off and stayed by the Supreme Court. An in-depth study of important normative questions such as how to define rights bearing nature, what rights to recognize, who can speak for nature, and whether someone should be responsible for protecting nature is required. It is required that someone must be responsible on the part of nature, and nobody other than the people who have rights on them can be suitable candidate as a voice for their protection. It means that if a project is going to be built on a river, if a forest is going to be cleared for some installing some projects, for building settlements, for establishing industrial hubs, if such projects are going to be established, the people who live around those places should be taken into confidence. They, if they opt for or favor this kind of a development to take place, there should be no objection to that. And if they object to that, if their culture, religion, and right to live is going to be impacted, the project should not be allowed. And this was made quite clear by the Supreme Court in its judgment. Now, to conclude the video, we have seen that protection of nature is very important. We are already standing at a threshold where a lot of damage has been done to nature, environment, ecology, biodiversity. And if we do not wake up at this moment, the future of the planet is going to be impacted, adversely impacted. And if it happens, nobody will be saved, and it will be highly detrimental to the health of the earth itself. With this, I end the video. Thank you. Thank you very much.